Hi everybody, this is Liam Martin from Running Remote, and in today's video, I have kind of an interesting video, something that I've wanted to talk about for quite a while, and I haven't spoken about it because I'm thinking I might get a little bit of haterade on me, which you never want on you, unfortunately, which is 6 things I love and hate about remote workers. So, I love remote workers. Everyone that works for me is a remote worker. I am a remote worker. I've almost worked remotely my entire life. And there are things that I like about them, and there are things that I don't like about them that much. So we're gonna be talking about that in this video. Stay tuned. Love number 1 about remote workers. I love the grinding component of remote workers. I feel that remote workers grind more than any of what I call their on-premise counterparts. So they're some of the most disciplined people I've ever met. You really do have to be disciplined to be able to work from home. There's so many distractions that pop up at home, and there's no kind of evil manager looking over your shoulder to be able to make sure that you're not playing solitaire or going on Facebook all day long inside of your cubicle. So it's really up to you to be able to execute on the amount of work that you're doing. And what I love about remote workers is once they've kind of adjusted to being a remote worker, they're super stoked to be able to work hard, and they're fantastic grinders. So that's love number 1. Love number 2 for remote workers. They have some of the craziest setups I've ever seen. We did a competition for Running Remote where we talked to our attendees and we said, hey, can you send us in some photos of the craziest work from home setups that you have? And we've got people by the beach, we've got people with like 20 different monitors, we've got people that are on the side of a mountain. It's really cool, all of the work setups that people have all over the world. So I love their work setups. I think they really have, it's something that speaks to me personally. I have a beautiful work setup here, a bunch of monitors. I might actually make that video in the future. I think it might be a good subject, but definitely something that I really appreciate about remote workers is their ability to be able to have these crazy work from home setups, which I think also helps their discipline and their work ethic. My third love for remote workers is they are really committed to long-term working engagements as a contractor or as becoming long-term employees. They're also really good communicators. So you have to be a fantastic communicator to be able to work remotely. I know for me, that was a lesson that I had to learn as I was working remotely, and I think I've gotten it more now, but I probably have still a little bit more to learn. I think that remote workers are really good at communicating because they have this digital divide, so they have to very clearly communicate either through email, instant messaging, through phone calls, or through video, exactly what needs to be done and how to do it. And because they've had that digital divide, they're really good communicators even in person. So that's really cool about them. I think anyone that wants to kind of learn how to communicate, you should probably talk to a remote worker, particularly when communicating work. So there's a couple things that I hate. Maybe hate's a strong word, but I'm gonna keep using it because it's probably better for this title. A couple things that I hate about remote workers as well. The first thing that I hate about remote workers is they are really bad at understanding their value. So I have seen so many remote workers that are making half or a quarter of what a San Francisco developer were making, and they're actually a better developer than most people in the Valley that I would meet. These guys that are working remotely from just really interesting different places all over the world. And they're fantastic employees, but because they don't work in San Francisco or London or Toronto or New York, they just don't set their prices at the same level. Maybe they're charging a quarter of their regular price that they would for those other developers. And that's a real shame, because I actually think for remote work to be able to get to where it needs to go, we need to start having bigger and bigger salaries for remote workers. So that's one of my biggest, I would call it a pet peeve. I'm gonna stick with hate. It's one of the things that I hate the most about remote workers is they don't understand their true value. My second hate for remote workers is culture. So it's really difficult to be able to communicate culture, company culture, to a remote worker. We have done it through our team retreats that we do every single year. We do monthly AMAs. We do what we call coworker coffee, where 2 random users in the company, or random employees in the company meet up every week to be able to discuss just anything. But for me, it's very difficult to still communicate why we're all here, what our goal is, what our mission is, and how to align people behind that. And it's been a lot more difficult doing it remotely than it has been in my experience doing it on an on-premise company, basically a brick and mortar company, because you don't get as much contact as you would when someone is working in person. That's a big pet peeve for me. It's something that I don't really know how to solve it at this point other than just throw money at it, which is more team retreats, more communication digitally, that type of stuff. Maybe we'll have a solution in the future with like augmented reality and virtual reality, but as of right now, that technology really isn't ready. So as of right now, we're basically just throwing more money at the problem, but I wish it was a lot easier to be able to communicate culture to remote employees. The third thing that I hate about remote workers is there is a duality of remote work. And my buddy Joel talks about this quite a bit, who runs Buffer, a very large remote business. And he talks about how you want to be able to make sure that the entire company is distributed and not having the executive team located in one place and then all of the remote employees basically existing outside of that bubble. So I've found this with a lot of remote companies where the founders or the executive team will be in a particular place and then the other employees will kind of almost float into that place, almost kind of by accident, but not by accident. And it's a big problem. I think that it creates a duality of two separate cultures. So you've got a close-knit kind of executive founder team culture, and then you have everyone else. And that's not necessarily fair. Everyone should be adding into the company equally. And in our case, I've actually really tried to encourage that to not happen. As an example, my business partner and CEO of Time Doctor, Rob Rawson, he lives in Sydney and I live in Sydney, Australia, and I live in Canada. So we're literally as far apart as you could possibly get. And we really try to fight hiring people locally or having people kind of move into our local areas, because that's not fair to other employees inside of the company. They'll feel left out and it's not good for culture. So that's 6 things that I love and hate about remote workers. I also have a little extra piece of information for everybody. If you've been watching these videos, you probably know that we run a conference called Running Remote. And if you are interested in attending Running Remote, all you're gonna have to do is like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and write a comment down below. I think the comment today would be, is there a love or hate you have about remote workers that really bugs you, or something that you really love about remote workers? Put it down below, and then we're gonna choose one person at random to be able to get a free ticket to our conference in Bali about building and scaling remote teams. If you've been watching this video, you'll probably love this conference. It's all about this particular subject. We literally just nerd out in some kind of tree houses made out of bamboo in the middle of the forest. It's pretty cool. So if you have any other concerns or questions, please drop them down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.